Hey guys, welcome back to Mac Music Review. In this episode, we are addressing something Anthony Fantano, Anthony Fartface, the Melon Head, the best teeth in the game, said a controversial statement, a couple weeks ago. He reviewed the new 21 Pilots album, Scaled and Icy, gave it a 2 out of 10, and said that all of the songs are varying degrees of awful. That is actually what he said. But except for Good Day, he liked Good Day, but he basically hated the whole album a lot. His title for his review, like the description for the review, was like, "How did this happen?" And I just kind of want to take a look at that, at his review, at his score that he gave it, and I want to do my own evaluation and ask the age-old question: is Scaled and Icy a 2 out of 10? To understand why Fantano gave it such a low score, you must also understand that Fantano loved the album Trench. He gave Trench an extremely positive 8 out of 10, and in his Scaled and Icy review, he even said how much he loved the album Trench. And he said, oh, this is an awesome album. But this album is not like Trench. Trench was an extremely ambitious, dense, and complex kind of concept album. It really was a concept album that actually had a narrative and a storyline and a lot of ambitious ideas, music and original production and lyrical content and deliveries and everything. It's a really adventurous, ambitious album. And this is a pop album with 11 tracks as opposed to 14, and only one of the songs is over 4 minutes long. Some of the tracks are less than 3 minutes. It's really a very compacted, it's not a long album. The direction for this one was indie/alternative pop, more on the mainstream side of things, which is extremely obvious from the single Shy Away, the lead single, which still fails to leave a strong impression on me. I think it's an acceptable track, a solid, fun, okay, serviceable alt-pop song. But I don't think it's still just not a great track. It's not very distinctive. It has a very traditional structure. It all just feels like something that a lot of other bands have done before, but it's just 21 Pilots throwing their hat in the ring and actually doing it worse than a lot of other bands like Dayglow. Is that the name of that band? Dayglow, the people who did Can I Call You Tonight? Like, Wallows and Hippocampus. It's kind of in that, Group Love. It's kind of in that lane. But I would argue that it's even a little bit worse than the better songs by those bands. The next single, Choker, was notably better in my opinion just because it sounded a lot more original. There was a lot more creativity. There was a lot more stuff going on that 21 Pilots was kind of just doing their own thing, making some music that really doesn't sound like it would be a radio hit, especially with that rapping part tacked on at the end, which people are saying is reminiscent of Taxi Driver, from the very first 21 Pilots album or some of the raps on Vessel. And I would agree with that comparison, even though it's a little bit cringier than those and it doesn't sound as good. It still gives the track a little bit of extra flair and extra kick, and I do like the music on that track, and I do like the hook, and it's a solid track, and I actually do like Choker a good bit. The third and final single for the album, Saturday, is such a ridiculous song if you are a 21 Pilots fan. It is a song about partying for the weekend, about living for the weekend, with lyrics as asinine and dumb as the people who made Party Rock as an LMFAO song. I mean, really, there's nothing, or a Teo Cruz, or just name Katy Perry, man. But more wholesome, I guess, a little bit less raunchy, a little bit less inappropriate, I should say. Not necessarily raunchy, but her music does lean on the inappropriate side. But anyway, it's a harmless, fun song about partying and living for the weekend, and it's not terrible, but it is very dumb. And the differences in the songs and the diversity of the track list becomes more and more obvious the more I listen to the album. Like, just look at the opener for the album, Good Day. A track that people are kind of universally liking, even people who hate the album. Fantano said it was the best track on the album, and it's just a jaunty piece of piano pop. That's probably the exact words he used. It's just an upbeat song with some kind of darker lyrics, and songs like that always hit the spot when you get the dark lyrics, the upbeat music, and it's, you know, it's ultimately an encouraging song and a fun song. Um, The Outside is a weird track that I respect for its weirdness. I respect it for its creativity, doing different things. The rapping, where he rhymes Megalodon with Megatron, that takes some balls. It might be a dumb bar, but it takes some balls to rhyme Megatron with Megalodon. When I first heard Never Take It, I didn't care for it at all. Now I actually do like it a good bit more. The more I've listened to the album, the more I've liked this track. It's doing a couple different things in the music. I think it all ultimately does work, but there is a lot of different stuff going on, kind of like with The Outside, where they're kind of doing lots of different things, but ultimately it still does feel kind of simple and kind of straightforward, but really it's not. The overall vehicle of the song, the overall drive and push and direction of the song feels straightforward, but it's doing it in kind of on a technical level, it's doing it in a weird way. And from a musical level, it's doing it in a weird way, even though it does ultimately feel familiar. I don't know what I'm saying right now. Mulberry Street and Formidable are just very pleasant songs. Mulberry Street is just such a nice tune. It is such a nice beat, such nice music, even though the lyrics are not great. Fantano actually pointed this out at length in his review, criticizing the message of the song, and I kind of agree with what he said about that. But I'm not going to get mad and say that it's a bad song, because the music is so nice and the vocals are nice. And if you like 21 Pot's vocals, I can understand if you don't like the vocals. Formidable is just a nice track. I don't have any super strong feelings on it other than that. I like it. I think it's good. Bounce Man is a really dumb song. This is the worst song on the album, in my opinion, just because the hook is so annoying. It's kind of like Saturday, but without being fun and really just being cringe. And so you could say that Saturday is really cringe, but I think it's just a fun song. The fun is replaced by cringe. It is a cringy hook, and I understand that the lyrical content is actually kind of subversive, and it sounds really positive, but it's actually talking about someone who's like a criminal and on the run, and he's like harboring this criminal, and he's like tells this criminal to go to his mom's house because they're friends. The criminal's like family friends with him and his mom, and that's kind of funny. But I don't care for the song at all. I think it's kind of lame. The album ends on a darker note with No Chances and Redecorate. No Chances is kind of goofy. The big, deep, scary voice that says, "No chances," with the ominous music in the background is a little bit much. And the rapping on this is also kind of cringe. It's kind of cringe, dude. It's a little bit... I'm a switchblade, and I mean... But... ultimately, I don't think it's a bad song. It's one of the worst tracks on the album, but it's not a bad song. Redecorate, on the other hand, is the best song on the album, one of the best songs of the year. It really does feel like them getting back in form for like the Trench kind of vibe. It kind of feels like Levitating to me, but without the rapping. Like it's kind of a similar vibe. The vocal manipulation's great. It sounds awesome. The music is great. The hook is great. The lyrics are great. It's a really great track. Best track on the album. But you know what? I don't hate this album. And I also don't love this album. I really do think it is a little bit of a misstep. It really is a little bit weird. And I can understand people hating this thing. But I personally, I think most of the songs do not create a strong negative reaction, even though No Chances is a dumb song, and Bounce Man is a really dumb song, and Saturday has really dumb lyrics, but I can kind of take that with a grain of salt and just laugh at it and just honestly have fun with it, because the music is fun enough to carry the song. But honestly, just in terms of real strong highlights, there's not a lot on here that creates a really strong positive reaction from me. And even Blurry Face I said was my least favorite 21 Pilots album when I did my ranking. I'll link that in the description. And I would say Blurry Face is better than this album, because Blurry Face has really strong highlights. I love Stressed Out. I love Ride. I love Goner. I love some of the more weird lyrical content, and I love some of the ideas on Blurry Face. And even though it does have more of a pop structure, this is more of a pop album than Blurry Face is. I don't really love pop music in general. I'm not a fan of pop music. I do respect the chances this album takes, and I do think it is more creative than some people are giving it credit for. But ultimately, in terms of just strong highlight moments, there are not a lot. There's not a lot of really songs that had to create a really strong positive reaction from me. So I don't love this album, and I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10 using Fantano's scale. It would be a 6 out of 10. And if I had to, use the light, decent, or strong, I would say a decent to strong 6. I would give it a decent to strong 6 out of 10. Yeah, you heard it here, guys. Because I already ranked the 21 Pilots albums before this came out. I would say this is the worst 21 Pilots album. I really I don't love it. And really the only song on this that I feel like I'll ever really come back to again and again is Redecorate. And just a fun thing to point out, I think AJR made a significantly better album than 21 Pilots, which is pretty funny. And guys, I think the thoughts are, going back to AJR, because I might not talk about it again. I might be on my best of the year, best of 2021, we'll see. But I think it's my favorite AJR album. I think it's the best album they've made. I've really come around on it. I think the highlights, even though it does have some low lows, Bang and Joe are awful. I think the highs kind of make up for it. And I think it is a really good album. But this one is just okay. Thanks for watching the video. Have a great rest of your day.